Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Sama Herakli, and today we're jumping straight into an absolute game changer for your systems. Segregation of Duties, or SoD in ERP. Look, we don't know SoD is that foundational internal control, making sure no single user has the keys to the entire kingdom, right? It's literally the core mechanism that stops errors, fraud, and unauthorized transactions dead in their tracks. So let's just dive right into it.
Here's what we're looking at for today's explainer. We'll start with the fundamentals of SoD, look at some key ERP concepts and conflicts, and then jump into implementation strategies with a real-world procure-to-pay example. After that, we'll cover some violation examples, go over the ultimate auditor checklists, and wrap it all up with some key takeaways.
Section 1. Fundamentals of SoD. Let's lay the groundwork. So what exactly is segregation of duties? Well, it essentially means distributing key responsibilities and authorities across different users so that absolutely no one can initiate, approve, and record the exact same transaction in your ERP. Think about it. Imagine if you could buy yourself a brand new, wildly expensive gadget and then turn around and approve the company paying for it. Yeah, no way. That's a massive risk. Distributing these tasks is how we stop that from happening. Moving on to the core objectives of SoD. Why do we go through all this trouble? Mostly to prevent fraud and error, ensure accuracy and completeness of your transactions, and to rigorously protect assets and data. By doing this, we ensure compliance with policies and regulations, promote operational efficiency and accountability, and significantly strengthen governance and the overall audit trail. Honestly, when we actively protect our assets like this, we're essentially putting up massive digital barriers that stop internal theft right where it starts. But why is SoD so critically important in an ERP environment? Well, ERP systems inherently integrate multiple business processes and modules. They connect the whole shebang. So without SoD, users could easily bypass controls and misuse their access. Good SoD absolutely reduces the risk of financial misstatements and fraud. It supports reliable financial reporting and compliance, and it massively enhances data security and process integrity. Practically speaking, because an ERP connects everything, from your inventory down to your accounting, if a bad actor gets unchecked access, that integrated nature means they could spread damage across multiple departments like wildfire. Now let's talk about the key principles of SoD. It boils down to this. Never ever allow one user to initiate and approve the same transaction. And you certainly can't let them authorize and record that same transaction either. Also, never let someone create or maintain master data who then turns around and uses it in transactions. And obviously, no single user should be able to override controls and perform key activities. Picture an employee. Let's call him Alex. If Alex can create a totally fake vendor profile in the master data and then issue a payment to that ghost vendor, boom, the company is bleeding cash. We absolutely cannot allow that overlap. Section 2. ERP Concepts and Conflicts. Let's see what happens when these rules hit reality.
Let's break down some examples of SoD conflicts in an ERP. In procure-to-pay, or P2P, the incompatible access is someone creating a vendor, approving a purchase order, processing the invoice, and releasing payment. The risk? Vendor fraud and duplicate payments. In order to cash, creating a customer and the sales order brings huge risks of revenue fraud and credit manipulation. For inventory management, creating material and approving transfers leads straight to inventory loss. In user access administration, creating users and approving access risks privilege misuse. We also see this in journal entries. But payroll? Oh boy, payroll is a big one. If someone can create a fake employee profile and approve salaries, well, that ghost employee is basically funneling cash directly into the fraudster's pockets.
Okay, so how does SoD actually work in an ERP conceptually? It's kind of like a relay race. Step 1, a transaction is initiated by user A. Step 2, it's reviewed or approved by a distinctly different person, user B. Step 3, it gets recorded or posted by the system or user C. And finally, step 4, an audit trail is safely logged in the ERP. Different users perform different activities, and the system enforces this role-based access to completely prevent any conflicting overlap. It's a clean, totally traceable baton pass from one person to the next.
And who exactly is running this relay race? Here are the common SoD roles in ERP. You've got the requester or initiator, the approver or reviewer, the poster or processor, the custodian or owner, and the auditor or monitor. Now, don't get it twisted, the auditor isn't just sitting back passively. They're actually in the trenches, actively monitoring logs and exceptions to catch anomalies the absolute second they happen. Section 3. Implementation and P2P example. Time to put all this theory into action.
When we're talking about implementing SoD and ERP, you've got to follow a very deliberate sequence. First, identify critical processes and risks. Then, map key activities and required roles. Next, define SoD rules and incompatible access. Only after all that do you configure roles and authorizations in the ERP. Once configured, you test SoD rules and run conflict reports, review and remediate SoD violations, and finally, monitor access reviews and continuous compliance. Basically, you have to map out those activities on paper or a spreadsheet first. Actually, scratch that. It's absolutely non-negotiable. If you just blindly jump into configuring the ERP without a solid map, you're practically guaranteeing hidden conflicts.
Let's look at an example using a purchase-to-pay SoD matrix. This matrix maps activities like create purchase requisition versus approve purchase requisition against our users: initiator, user A; approver, user B; and processor, user C. The matrix specifically identifies SoD conflicts. So if user A has the authority to create a purchase requisition, the matrix dictates they absolutely cannot approve it. User B steps in for that approval. The check marks and X marks clearly show that anytime these roles overlap, you've got a conflict. By explicitly defining who does what, you guarantee that no single person is calling all the shots.
Section 4. SoD violation examples. Let's look at what happens when the wheels fall off.
Because yes, things do go wrong. SoD violation examples typically look like this. The same user creates a vendor and approves payment, or the same user creates a PO and approves the invoice. Sometimes you'll find the same user maintains master data and uses it in transactions. Another huge one, the same user overrides an approval workflow. You might also see excessive access that isn't required for the job, or, and this is a real nightmare, shared user IDs and weak password controls. Let me stop right there for a second. If your team uses shared user IDs, it completely destroys any sense of accountability. I mean, if an auditor finds a violation under some generic admin account that 5 different people use, you literally have zero way of knowing who actually pressed the button.
Section 5. Auditor checklists and tools. Consider this your ultimate detection toolkit. Here is a sample checklist for auditors. You need to review SoD policy and role design, obtain a list of critical roles and users, run SoD conflict reports in the ERP, and analyze and validate SoD violations. You also must review user access and role profiles, check for emergency access and periodic reviews, verify approval workflows and logs, and ensure SoD rules are constantly updated for process changes. I want to highlight that emergency access piece, often called firefighter roles. Sure, if the system crashes, someone needs God mode access to fix it, but auditors must absolutely verify that this firefighter access was revoked the very second the flames were out, and that every single click during that time was securely logged.
What tools and ERP features are used to make this happen? We rely on role-based access control, or RBAC, authorization objects, and SoD rule configuration. We also use access risk analysis tools, conflict and violation reports, workflow and approval controls, user access review reports, and of course, audit logs and change logs. By running those access risk analysis tools, for example, you can actually flag conflicts automatically in real time, catching issues before they even have a chance to materialize. It's a massive proactive advantage.
Section 6. Benefits and key takeaways. Let's bring it all home.
Let's run through the benefits of SoD in an ERP. It prevents fraud and unauthorized access, improves accuracy and data integrity, and ensures compliance with regulations. Furthermore, it strengthens the internal control environment, enhances operational efficiency, supports reliable financial reporting, and builds accountability and transparency. Think about how that accountability shapes your corporate culture, you know? When everyone stays in their specific lane, they're protected from being blamed for someone else's mistake. It genuinely fosters a much healthier and far more positive work environment. So here is your key takeaway. Segregation of duties in ERP is essential to prevent fraud, protect assets, and ensure reliable business processes. Strong role design, SoD rules, and continuous monitoring help organizations maintain effective internal controls and compliance. I want you to remember this essential formula. Proper role design, plus segregated responsibilities, plus configured SoD rules in ERP, plus monitoring and review of violations equals a secure, compliant, and efficient organization. Every single one of those ingredients is absolutely mandatory if you want the whole equation to work. I'll leave you with this final thought. Good SoD today ensures trust and integrity tomorrow. So ask yourself, are your systems actually segregated, or are you just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best?
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this dive into internal controls helpful, be sure to stick around and keep mastering these systems with me, Sama Harakli. I'll catch you in the next one.